Hi, welcome to the Talk Spot. This is Marcus, and today I'm joined by actor David Faustino. David, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Hello, hello.
All right, perfect. So, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, can you tell us a little bit about, your career, like how you got started and what led you to Married with Children?
Briefly, I come from kind of like a showbiz family. My aunts and uncles were dancers in the movies, decades ago. My father was a costumer his whole life at a place called Western Costume Company, which used to be, it was basically my playground. It was an amazing place, an old building right next to Paramount in old Hollywood. Paramount finally bought out all that land and bulldozed, took a wrecking ball to it. So that's all gone now. But it was like the place to be for, wardrobe and costumes. I mean, they did every movie you could imagine back in the day. So my dad was a part of all that. And during that process, my older brother, Randy, who was like super, super cute when he was a kid, like just like kind of like baby doll gorgeous. And he was at my dad's, costuming place at Western Costume Company. And, some producer of some commercial saw my brother and was like, oh my God, he's beautiful. I want to use him for this commercial. And that's basically how that started. That brother I'm speaking of, Randy, is 11 years older than me. So my sister then kind of got into it and she did some commercials and stuff. And my brother went on to do some of that. And now he's a audio mixer. He does like The Voice and American Idol, and he's got 2 Emmys already. So one of us has to get one. So he's ahead of me by 2. But so then my sister kind of got into it. She did some things, and then I fell into it and started. I started when I was a baby, when I was 3 months old. Literally, I did a thing called the Lily Tomlin special, with obviously with Lily Tomlin, and in the sort of special she did, it was a comedy special for television. In one of the skits, she was a clown at the circus, basically, in the skit, and she had to be rushed to the hospital to have her baby, and then her baby came out as a clown. Long story short, I'm that clown, and I happened to be a girl in that. So my first role, I was a girl clown at 3 months old. And then I went on to do other things and remained a child actor and worked on, all your favorite old shows, basically, the Family Ties and Love Boat and Fantasy Island and, a bunch of that kind of stuff and a bunch of commercials. And that's kind of what I did. Movies of the week back in the day when they used to have movies of the week. And I did one series. I always wanted a series, though. That was like my goal in life, was to get a series. And I'd never booked one. I'd see like kids my age who were, in the business. I'd come up with guys like, Seth Green and all those guys, and I would see them book a series or a big movie. I would get really jealous, so I really wanted that. And then I did a little series called I Had 3 Wives. That was the closest I got to a series, which we did 6 episodes, but I had just a blast doing that. That was with the actor Victor Garber. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not, unfortunately.
Victor Garber, he's in the film. He's in tons of stuff, but like, he's kind of one of those underground dudes that he works all the time, but really no one knows who he is. But he was in Titanic, the one with Leo DiCaprio. He's the one who plays the guy who designed the ship.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah, he's all worried when he knows it's gonna all fall apart, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's not enough boats." The kind of, that the older gentleman. He's kind of good looking. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, Victor Garber. So anyway, I worked with the kindest dude, great guy, and one of the kindest guys. I still run into him, from time to time. But he played my dad in that film or in that show. I Had 3 Wives, and it was great, man. It was a great time doing that show. It was like he was a detective. He had 3 ex-wives that he had to manage. He was like a bumbling detective, But it was a lot of fun. And then that was like a really joyful time in my life. And then, it's like you know how it is. It ebbs and flows. And it's always done that since I was a little kid. You work and then you don't work, and then you work and then you don't work. It's just the way it goes. So then I kept auditioning, and then bring you to Married with Children in 1987. There was a pilot called Married with Children. My mom read the script. My mom, who read a lot of the scripts back then, because I was only 12 years old. She thought it was the funniest shit she's ever read in her life. She was cracking up reading it, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is the funniest thing." And my mom knew. She had read, like I said, tons of scripts. So I went in and read on this pilot, and I didn't. To be honest with you, I didn't do well at all, and I don't think I even got one callback. And they ended up hiring 2 other actors to play those roles of Bud and Kelly. And I won't mention their names. They can look that up if they want. But anyway, they replaced them with myself and Christina Applegate. But we had to go back in, so I had to start from the top. When we found out, I had switched agents at the time. Between when they hired the other kids, during that time, I had switched agents, and my new agent just kind of snuck me in again on the call, because if they've already read somebody, they don't really want to read anybody again. I mean, it's like, we've already seen that guy. We want new blood. But my new agent at the time, God bless her, Bo Shoot, she's an amazing woman. She got me in the room, and somehow I did really well. And I got, call back after call back after call back. And then finally they matched me up with a bunch of, 3 other actresses, and finally with Christina Applegate. When we went in the room, there was a kind of, I guess, a sort of magic going on. I still remember little bits and pieces of it. So that's kind of, that's how it all went down. And then, cut to 11 seasons later. It was a great time, and great cast, great friends, tremendous experience on that set.
How long after the show debuted would you say that it became like the hit that it was? Like, was it like immediate? I mean, was it like a season or 2, or did it take a couple years, or was it immediately like the first or second episode, the ratings were huge and the show just really took off?
Well, no, it was definitely under the radar. I mean, people who became fans of the show had to go back and watch, because most people didn't tune in until season 3. So people had to literally go back and watch the episodes. And at that time, it wasn't as easy as it is now, obviously. So yeah, it took 3 seasons. Basically, what happened was there was a woman named Terry Ricolta, who was basically I don't know if a billionaire or multi-millionaire. I'm not sure which. But anyway, she's a really, her husband is some powerful man, and she's a powerful woman. But she came into her room and saw her kids like laughing at this show, hysterically cracking up. And she, turned it up, and she saw the filth that was Married with Children, and she was just horrified by it. And so with the power that she had, I think she must have been a billionaire. With the power that she had, she was able to successfully pull big sponsors from the show, including McDonald's and Coca-Cola. So we're talking like big, huge players, hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising money. And she was able to pull them. But, of course, as we all know, history repeats itself. Because of that move, it became headlines, and it had the entire, the opposite effect of exactly what she wanted to happen. It became this fucking huge, smash hit, because everybody wanted to know, what is this filth that we can't watch? Tell people they can't watch something, and they'll figure it out. So that's how, and that was season 3.
So Married with Children, that debuted before The Simpsons, right?
It did. Well, no, actually, technically, no. Technically speaking, we aired at the exact same time, because The Simpsons were, as I'm guessing, was birthed out of the Tracy Ullman show. Did you know that?
I have heard that before.
Yeah, so the Tracy Ullman show, there was 3 shows that debuted on Fox's, kickoff night, which, by the way, we're talking like we're going back to 3 networks on your television. It sounds so crazy talking about it. It's like we had 3 channels. That was our option. Or we had like some cable outlets you could buy, like On TV or Select TV or those kind of things. But you couldn't. So then the Fox network came around, and it was like launching a 4th network. And so in many places in the country, you couldn't even get it. It was only in like 85 or 82% of the country. So it was a hard push to get where we are.
Wow. Because I guess the reason why I was asking that is that it seems like for both shows, I mean, obviously there are some similarities between those. I mean, obviously The Simpsons is far more surreal because, it's a cartoon and you guys, you're human beings. There's only so many physical things you could do, especially with, any kind of computer graphics, technology that existed at the time. But it seems like both shows really, like, I don't know, they really struck a nerve where it was the right time and the right place. Like, do you feel like a show like Married with Children today, do you think it would have to be a lot different than how it was for it to really do well today? Yeah,
but I want to backtrack slightly because I sort of got lost my train of thought there. But what I was trying to say was, just to sum it up briefly, is that the 3 shows that aired that night were the Tracy Ullman Show, 21 Jump Street, the original with Johnny Depp, and Married with Children. Those were the 3 shows. And in Fox's, like, sort of their launch, they decided to just air them back to back to back like 3 times. But the Simpsons were just skits in the Tracy Ullman Show, little sketches that they throw to, and they were if you go back, they're drawn differently, and obviously they've evolved into what they are now. But that's where they were birthed. So they come from the same exact launch time, really. I mean, if you think about the success of The Simpsons, it's mind-boggling. It really is. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's still going strong to this day. I mean, yeah. I guess, I feel like, with Married with Children, like, let's say, for example, I mean, I know that I'm sure you're familiar with the rumors, or maybe you're in contract talks now, but, the idea of, a Married with Children, sequel show being created, or a reboot, something like that. Kind of like what they did with Roseanne, or Boy Meets World when they did His Daughter. I mean, do you think a Married with Children today, do you think it would have to be substantially different than the original, like in terms of comedy and themes, or do you feel like it could actually even do better today with those same themes and ideas?
It would have to change. It would have to evolve to today's standards, if you want to call it evolution. I don't know what it is, but it would have to be switched around. You wouldn't have Al commenting the way he did in the shoe store when large women came into the shoe store. So it would have to be shifted around. I don't know that it would ever happen, simply because of some issues with one of the people involved, not one of the actors, not even one of the producers, sort of one of the heirs to the throne, so to speak. There's like an issue there. So I don't know if that will ever happen. It doesn't look great, but then again, anything can happen.
I think that sounds like a very, a good response to that. Cause I mean, I'm a person that, I'm a lay person. I mean, I'm not in touch with the industry at all. I mean, I don't really know anything about what the decision process is. If it's a bunch of, Fox or Sony or Disney execs, or they just sit at a table one day and they say, oh, well, this show's not doing good, or hey, we need to get back ratings, let's just create a new show. I mean, I don't even know what that process is like. So, I mean, obviously you're way more educated about it than I am.
Well, that's why, writers are paid great money, because they create content that, drives people to watch ads. That's all it is. On free TV anyway. Obviously, when you're watching, streaming services or you're paying, for that. But when you're watching, so-called free television, you're bombarded nonstop with advertisements for everything you can imagine, and that's all it is. It's the writers are hired to create content to bring viewers to buy shit, and that's really all it is at the end of the day. We just get to have a good time in the middle. Writers and actors get to have a good time doing what they do, but at the end of the day, it's all about advertising money or theater, box office revenue.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a really good point. I mean, even that extends beyond even television. I mean, you could look at, radio programs, like radio shows. You could look at sports broadcasts. I mean, the whole reason why the NFL exists is to sell ad space. I mean, that's how they make the vast majority of their money.
Exactly. We're pawns in the game, but at the same time, you just, have fun playing the game.
So another thing I wanted to ask real quick too. So when you especially like at the time, like at least for the internet era's sake, with Married with Children was happening, I mean, the internet really wasn't what it is today in the sense of, I'm trying to think of what word to say. I guess like fan involvement in properties. And you must have seen this a lot more when you did Korra, but like, like the amount of fan theories, let's say, right? I'm sure you're familiar with, there's obviously the Legend of Korra. There's tons of, fan theories and fan art, and some of it is, it's for everybody, and some of it is not for everybody. Right. But do you feel like, I mean, I don't know, I guess even with that still being said, I mean, have you come across just some crazy Married with Children fan theories? Like, have you heard anything where you're like, how did you guys come up with this one?
You mean Married with Children fan theories?
Yeah. Like, have you come across any online where you're like, what the heck? Like, how did you come up with that idea?
To be quite honest with you, no. Because I don't search it out. So I bet if I went online and looked, but I'm busy doing other shit, so I don't really I haven't done that, but. The only thing I hear like from fans in the street all the time is the question you asked me about the reboot. They all want to know, and they all call it the same thing, which is Married with Grandchildren. And that's what the fans decided should be the name of a reboot if it happens, and I hear that all day long.
Another topic I wanted to, I guess, bring up is just the idea of working in Hollywood itself. I mean, obviously, you must have heard so many people where, like, what's the magic ingredient? Like, how can I, break into the industry, or how can I get on like a hit show, or what can I do to be a voice actor? Or, I'm sure you're asked with these kind of questions, and I'm not necessarily going to ask you for what you think is the magic ingredient, but at least for yourself, I mean, how would you, just, I guess, describe the career in Hollywood? I mean, is it all that it's cracked up to be, or have you found it at times to be difficult? Or, I mean, because like you said, I mean, you've basically been acting your entire life. I mean, so I guess it's in your own experience. Yeah. How would you describe your experience in Hollywood?
Well, it's ups and downs. I mean, it's a great business. It's a great business. It's also one of the hardest businesses in the world. So it's not for the weak-hearted. And, unfortunately, usually actors are pretty, sensitive people to begin with. So it's a tough balancing act because, when you're up, you're up. When you're down, you're down. But I'm born and raised here, so it's also different for me because my family is here. It's not like I sort of, had to uproot everything I have and move out to California without, this is kind of just my home base. So you're already inundated with the entertainment industry living here. Everybody is somehow part of it in some way. So it's kind of like all already. So, I had an up and down experience. It is what it is. You grow up really fast. You lose out on things that the things that you lose out on are sports. Because you can't play on a team if you can't make practice. I mean, that's just real simple math. So you miss out on playing on the football team, on the baseball team, because you get kicked off because you can't make practice. So so then your ties are a little looser with your friends there, and then you start hanging out with adults all the time who just talk like adults when they're on set. It is what it is. They're not sort of minding, oh, there's a kid here. especially on that set, with Ron Levitt. Ron Levitt being the creator and producer and writer of the show. He was really like, foul mouthed, and every other word out of his mouth was something. So you grew up, fast in that sense. Yeah. So, but it's a great business. I love what I do, and I have ups and downs. Some days I love it. Some days I hate it. I have as I do a lot of voiceover. So I do a lot of work from my home, and some days it's a grind. Some days it's not. But I love what I do most days, and some days I don't. And I think that goes for like probably most people in their career, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't envision, being like a child like actor. I mean, that would seem, well, especially starting off as a child actor like you did. That, I mean, yeah, like I can easily envision some of the dynamics like you just said. For example, just things like, going skateboarding with friends, or like you said, going to a baseball practice, or yeah, I mean, because when the show, so you were basically like a teenager when Married with Children just blew up, and that must have been. I can't even imagine what that must have been like living that.
The one weird thing that happens, to be honest with you, is that everybody the people around you that are, kind of like haters, people who you think are your friends, and then you become really successful at something, and, the rumor is that you change, which, okay, I'll give them that. Maybe you do a little bit, but they really change. The people around you who can't handle it really change. Like people at school, you go back and there's this air of he's better than us. It's really bizarre, man. It's really fucking bizarre. But I noticed it with like so many people. So you learn early on who then there's the cool people who really like, oh man, it's amazing, it's dope, and who support you, and you realize that those are the people you want to hang out with, and the other people you just weed out.
Because did you have to become homeschooled while you were filming the show eventually at one point, or did you stay in regular high school like throughout?
Well, no, I left school, basically when the show started at 12 years old, and had to set school up until the time I graduated, and that was, for better or for worse, it was what it was. I wasn't a very motivated student. Some people are. Like I remember Alyssa Milano, for example, was next to us in the schoolroom, and I just remember them, being really involved in the curriculum and wanting to learn. And I wanted to just be on set, and I hated being in the schoolroom, but that's what I did up until I was, graduated, and I kind of educated myself though by reading a lot. That's kind of how I learned. And then you learn just about life by being around adults, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair point. So since Married with Children, I mean, would you say the biggest voice acting job that you've done has been on Korra?
That's the most popular one. Yeah, okay. I mean, Korra has a massive following. I mean, the most lucrative kind of jobs are campaigns, commercials, and things. I've done a few campaigns for several companies, and those are great jobs because they last a long time and they pay really well. So I've done several of those, but the Korra is the most popular animated thing I've ever done. I mean, when we did the Comic-Con, we had like the big hall, I guess it's Hall H or whatever it is, and it was filled to the max with people, and they started lining up at 9, 10, 11 o'clock the night before to come to a 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. Show, not a show, whatever you call it, when we all do our thing there. And so that was crazy because I didn't know. I wasn't, to be honest with you, I hadn't seen The Last Airbender or any of that stuff before I auditioned for Legend of Korra. So, yeah.
Because Korra, because that went on. When did the final season happen? Was that 2013 or 14?
I think it was 2014 was the final season. Yep.
Okay, and your character was Mako, right? He was like the lead guy, right? The lead male character in the show, right?
He wait, I want to guess what state. Wait, what state are you in? Are you in?
I'm not sure what part of LA you're in, but I'm not very far from LA at all. Like, I'm actually like,
Oh, okay.
with the traffic, I mean, depending on how bad it is, I'm within 30 miles of downtown
Where are
LA.
you from originally?
I'm from here. I was born and raised in Ventura County.
Oh, okay, got it.
And I lived in Northridge and Reseda and Chatsworth and stuff. But yeah, I'm from here. I went to CSUN even, and I'm total. I know sometimes people say I don't sound like I'm from California though.
You sound like you're from not like a heavy Minnesota, but you sound slightly Midwest. I thought I was gonna peg you for don't take this the wrong way, but Minnesota. But anyway, good.
I don't take offense at all to that at all. But yeah, man. I'm sure. Again, I'm not sure exactly where you're at, but I imagine we're probably not very far apart miles.
Yeah, I'm just in West Hollywood.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I'm not far at all then from you.
All right, sorry to interrupt the conversation.
I was just gonna say, oh gosh, what was the question? Yeah, so I mean, yeah, for the character Mako, I mean, he's like the main, because I've only seen a couple episodes of Korra. I'm more familiar with The Last Airbender, but he's the main lead, he's the main male lead in the show, right?
He is, yeah, he's the leading man to Korra, but that's in the first few seasons, and then they break up, and Mako has to go on, goes on and does his thing being a cop. But yeah, he's the leading man until he messes up. I think she thinks he was going to cheat with Asami or something, or I don't remember the exact breaking point right now, to be honest with you. But he did something that really pissed her off, and she had it, and that was it for him. And then he had his own storyline from there.
What did you think when they, obviously the last episode, it's revealed that Korra is bisexual. I mean, what did you think about that response? I mean, or I guess for yourself, being around the writers and everything, was that something that was really planned out, or was that more kind of sudden? Like when you saw it, you're like, oh, geez, like I didn't know that was going to happen. I guess, yeah. Well, what did you think when you saw it?
I thought it was amazing, man. We were all surprised because no one knew it was coming. Maybe Janet knew because it's her character, and maybe Seychelles knew because it's her character. I mean, maybe the writers approached them and told them something, but I didn't know anything. I was kind of the idiot. I wasn't great at following along as to what was happening because I didn't know that world. And also, you record the scripts, you record the audio so far in advance that by the time the show airs, you forget what the hell's happening because you've done it. Yeah, and then you're like in all these interviews and they're asking you questions about storyline, and you're trying to keep track of it all because you're recording episodes that are going to air a year or 2 years from now. It's crazy.
Yeah, and especially too, I mean, I guess this kind of circles back to this idea of the modern internet culture where somebody asks you a question interview at Comic-Con, they say, oh, they ask you something and then you accidentally answer with a spoiler, then all of a sudden, your response is going to be on Screen Rant, or it's going to be on one of these internet blog type publications.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Like, and these guys are protective over their stuff, and then they kind of launch us out there to the sharks, and you're supposed to know everything you're talking about and not mess up. But I came close, or did probably once or twice, mess up a storyline and maybe reveal something because, like I said, it was really hard to keep track of where you were in the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, I guess I would imagine that you've probably encountered this sometimes where people, when they ask you about your work, they expect you to be like the master of that show, right? Like, so for Legend of Korra, it's like, well, David, what about this, and blah, 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 and like, what about this and this theory? And then you're like, dude, I work on this show. I didn't create the show.
It's exactly right. It's like, I of course, I'm so appreciative of all the fans that watch the show, and I'm good. But it's like, I don't know that world very well because I was never an anime or necessarily even animation a big fan. I just kind of got into that world through voiceover. So yeah, it's like you said, when you have fans approaching you at Comic-Con or any of the conventions, and you have, like you said, they're dressed up as this character or that character, and as you said earlier, with all the theories and this, that, and the other, and you're just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that. Yeah, that must. And I guess that's one thing that's cool about your career is that you've kind of seen like the level, like the fame that you've seen, where obviously it was different in the '90s, where you didn't have the internet. Things are a lot different than now, where so people, when they would ask you about Married with Children, it was, these are people that are just like, oh yeah, I watched it on TV. They didn't necessarily own the VHS tapes of the seasons at the time. But now it's like, I mean, on the internet, there's whole websites dedicated to the Legend of Korra. Like, there's whole wiki type pages, and every character has a Wikipedia page, and, there's extended stuff. And
wow.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I didn't realize that all the characters had a wiki page.
Well, maybe not like every single character. And again, I mean, I'm necessarily, but I mean, I know the main characters always do.
That's crazy.
So has there been any talks about that being continued? Or have you heard anything about that you can share or no?
No, I don't think so. I think those guys might have done another show. I think they have something on Netflix. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so yeah, Mako was named after... by the way, Mako, I don't know if you know this, but he was named after an actor that was on the original show, The Last Airbender. And his name is Mako, and I don't want to pronounce his last name because I don't want to ruin it. It's a Japanese last name, Iwamatsu, I believe, something like that. Mako Iwamatsu. And he passed away in between them doing The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. He passed away, and so the writers dedicated his name as the character, and that's kind of how that happened.
I have heard that before. That guy, the guy Mako, the actor. He I think he was also the voice of Aku in Samurai Jack. So a lot of people might recognize that real deep, kind of really strong voice.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. I guess I want to talk real quickly too about your radio program, Old Scratch Radio. So do you air here in LA, or and how often are the broadcasts?
No, I moved to a different format. I was doing the Old Scratch Radio Hour for several years and had a blast doing it. Got to interview cool people and meet great people. But to be honest with you, I just kind of got burnt out. And so I just switched to I'm just spinning records. I'm just DJing once a week over at Dash Radio on their station Native Rhymes, which is kind of more of the classic hip hop as opposed to what's happening today. I play some newer music from artists out there, but I try to keep it to the classic stuff a little bit, or at least that vibe. So that's what I do once a week. And I switched it up because, to be honest with you, I'm busy writing right now, and it's taking up a lot of my time, writing and voiceover. And so I just I just had to give something up, and that was taking up my whole week because you have to prep the show, you have to prep the interviews, and all of that good stuff. So I'm just enjoying doing the DJing. It's every Wednesday. It's 5 p.m. out here in Pacific, 8 p.m. on the East. And it's on Dash Radio on Native Rhymes.
Yeah, because I saw you actually do a couple interviews. I saw you do an interview with Ed O'Neill where he was on your show, and then I think you were a guest on Pauly Shore's podcast. I heard you talk about the radio program as well on there.
Yeah. I did his podcast. He did mine. So I like I said, I had fun doing it. I would maybe do a podcast, but I'm kind of done with that whole weekly grind, to be honest with you.
Oh man, that totally makes sense. I guess one quick last thing. So, what do you have a best friend celebrity? And do you guys ever I don't know, because I saw you do some photos, at least on your Instagram or on one of your profiles or social media accounts, where I saw you with in photos of Seth Green. Obviously, you're on Pauly Shore's show and he came on yours, and obviously you're still friends. It seemed, at least in the interviews I've seen you do, you seem very friendly with the old cast from Married with Children. I mean, do you have a like a close celebrity friend, or have you found it easier to be friends with, I guess, people not necessarily that are actors or in the industry?
Well, I mean, I think the theory of like, the best we get is sort of 2 to 5 good friends in life, and then the rest are kind of acquaintances. I mean, I have my close little knit of dudes I was raised with, and my 4 guys, and those are my family. And then I have a lot of acquaintances in this town that I love, and I use the word adore, but I really do. There's some of the greatest people and the nicest people I know. And when I see them, it's love, love, love. But I go back to just my family and my close knit friends at the end of the day.
Okay, no, that totally makes sense. Yeah. Well, David, yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time. And how can we follow everything that you're doing? I mean, are you active on Twitter or your Facebook page or Instagram? Like, what would be the best way to follow everything that you're doing?
To be honest with you, it's mostly Instagram. So just at David Faustino on Instagram is what I try to stay active most on. But just to shamelessly plug, my radio show again is Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then all you have to do is go to dashradio.com, or you can download the app. It's a free app. And it's a pretty dope app, actually. There's like 60 stations of all kinds of music, everything you can imagine. It's much like satellite radio, but free, and the signal is better. And I'm on the station Native Rhymes, so you just click Native Rhymes, and it's every Wednesday.
Okay, and then are you on any shows right now too that we can watch?
Well, currently, I mean, there's a show on Netflix that I do called Dragons, but we wrapped that up a little bit ago. But it's a fun show if you haven't watched it. It's the How to Train Your Dragon series version on Netflix.
Okay, and what character do you play on that show?
I play a character named Dagger, and he's the villain. He's a villain throughout the first few seasons. I won't give it away too much, but he they bring him on pretty early on, I think season 2, and he's a villain throughout, but he has a lot of different transformations. He's a lot of fun, man. It's probably one of my favorite, more of my favorite characters I've played, because he's like, a villain, but he's also got a heart, so it's fun.
Okay. Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, definitely, yeah. Thank you so much, David. I'll let you know when the interview's up, and yeah, it was great talking to you.